Bienvenidos. Welcome to Half Bay City Council meeting, May 7th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Here.
Councilmember Reddick?
Here.
Vice Mayor Rohrbeck?
Here.
Mayor Jimenez?
Here.
You have a quorum.
May we stand for the pledge? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Reddick?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rohrbeck?
Yes.
Mayor Jimenez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Proclamation. We have as you know, May is recognized as a mental health month. It's been, half of May has gone through a lot. You know, during the pandemic, we saw how it affected our community. Even to this point, how our community, especially our children, were affected. I've done a lot of work with the farmer community, but one thing that actually struck me, there was a study done, 2020, late 2020 into early 2021. It was done by migrant agricultural workers and this organization out of Texas that did a study with farm workers and mental health. I was surprised actually to see how mental health affects our farm worker community, and nobody ever took note. On that study, it showed all the mental health trauma that farm workers have gone through. During the pandemic, 98% of the farm worker population were dealing with high levels of stress, anxiety, depression, and many other problems, I'm going to call them, that were never recognized. The suicide rate of the farm worker community was pretty high. The use of drugs and alcohol was pretty high as well. When it came out, that's how farm workers cope. I don't know if you knew, but in the 1990s, there was a high epidemic of use of crystal meth among the farm worker community. The reason they started using crystal meth, and it was not just California, it was other states as well, so they could actually work long hours, because that was the only way they could make an extra income working overtime. Many of them became addicted. In San Mateo County, I had the opportunity to provide support to some of our local farm workers to enter programs, rehabilitation programs. Most of them made it out. And some of them, graduated from the program, and years later they relapsed again, and there was no turning back for them anymore. Last year, January 23rd, 2023, there was a tragedy in Half Moon Bay. As we understand, it was related to mental health, high levels of stress. Every day, millions of people face stigma related to mental health and substance use, and conditioned away and make feel isolated and alone, going years before receiving help. In January, San Mateo County supervisors declared loneliness a public health crisis, a pledge to promote social connection to local communities. If you visit the farms, there is a lot of isolation. Some of the farm workers in San Mateo County, they don't visit our towns. If they do, it's only to do the shopping. I realized that during the fires in South County, when there was an evacuation center at Half Moon Bay High School, and we provided information for the evacuation center, farm workers from Pescadero did not know how to drive around Half Moon Bay. Nevertheless, they didn't know how to get to the high school. So among our community, farm workers are greatly affected by this. This year, May is our Mental Health Month names. Theme is Healed Through Our Connection, encouraging others to connect with people they feel safe with. Build new connections, strengthen all connections, and connect with resources. The Half Moon Bay City Council wishes to increase the public knowledge of the signs and symptoms of mental health and substance use conditions, professional and self-help resources, and care and practices. Remember, you are not alone in this journey towards mental wellness. Whether you are struggling with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health challenges, there are resources to support and support systems available to help you navigate through it. Let's all take a moment this month to reach out to a friend or family member. Start a conversation about mental health, offer support. Together we can break the stigma and promote healing through our connection. Today, we have a celebrity in our community, Dr. Rana who was here last year, to support our community after the tragedy of the shooting at our local farms. She actually flew in from New York to be here with us. Thank you. Dr. Hu, she was here last year. She was here this year, at the anniversary of the tragedy. And our community was very happy to see her back. The support that she has provided to our local community, especially local farm workers, is greatly appreciated. I would like for her to receive the proclamation. I'm going to read it. Just the bottom part. It's a lot of reading. Let me read more. Come. Hello? Now, therefore, in being known that I, Joaquin Jimenez, along with my fellow council members, recognize the month of May 2024 as a Mental Health Awareness Month to expand awareness of youth, mental health, and health issues. And I would like to Dr. Hu to receive this proclamation in the name of the City of Half Moon Bay and the City of Half Moon Bay staff. I forgot to sign it.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored, and yes, it's true. I did fly in from New York from the American Psychiatric Association national meeting. Arrived at about 2 this morning, and I'm so honored to be here. It was such a tragedy last year when the shooting happened, and I remember watching the news and then the next morning trying to find out how I could help. And thank you to all of the people of Half Moon Bay for welcoming not only my colleagues and I from Stanford, but all of the people from all over, trying to help, not always knowing what we were supposed to do, not always agreeing with each other, but it really showed the strength of the community. We know that there is no health without mental health, and we know that so many of the challenges that the farm workers have faced have been incredible. I have to confess that I did not know about the conditions before this happened, and after I came back from the first 2 weeks I was here almost every day, and I remember talking to a patient who said, yes, I was a farm worker before. And I said, I never knew. And she said, I never wanted to talk about it. And it was difficult for her. And then one of the psychologists at Stanford who said, my parents were farm workers. And I said, look, from one generation, from farm workers to Stanford psychologists in one generation, this is inspiring, and this is what we're all trying to help with. It was amazing to see how much better the farm workers were doing this year than last year, and they were so grateful. And I was honored to sit with them at the memorial this year. And one more thing I guess I have to say, why am I bringing my Stanford ID badge with me to the podium? It's because on the same badge that I have to use every day to get in and out of the building is a key that the kids of Half Moon Bay, remember at the memorial ceremony, they painted these keys and gave them to people in the audience. And so I've been carrying this with me every single day ever since. Thank you.
I also carry my key. It's losing some of the paint, but I still carry with me with my truck keys. As a reminder. Thank you, Dr. Hu. Mayor's announcements. This Saturday, there's going to be a wellness fair at Acuña, or middle school. The BHRS department has this every year. If you're available to attend, please be present. May being a mental health month. I want to do a plug for an office in Half Moon Bay, the OCC. If you have an opportunity to visit the Opportunity Center of the Coastside, it's a great opportunity for community. It's 637 Main Street. Thank you. Please stop by and visit. I think that's it I have on the announcements. Actually, before we go into public forum, it's down the line on the agenda, I want to clarify the council members. We are not able to engage or answer any of your questions. We are here to listen on your public comments. I'll make sure that is clear. Thank you. Reports from our closed sessions.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The council would meet in closed session prior to this meeting to discuss 2 items of litigation involving the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side, or SAM, and nothing to report out. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 updates tonight. We have a couple of staff members that will be presenting. We'll start with Public Works, who will be presenting some sustainability updates and some updates on transportation grants. It looks like Helen Walter and Matt Nichols from our Public Works Department will be presenting those.
Hello, do we have slides? We did. Do you want us to take it from the table? I know, we can do that from here. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Jessica. This on? Test, test, test. Okay.
Sit here and do it? Would that be easier? Seems to be working.
Thank you. Sorry about the evening for me of technological issues. Good evening, City Council, Honorable Mayor. Quickly, we wanted to make sure that all of you were aware, give you a quick update on the Transportation Demand Management Program. There was some question about that at the priority setting, so wanted to give you an update on that. So this is a joint grant with the County of San Mateo and the Transportation Authority. It covers, as you can see from that map, it covers from Montera south to approximately Moonridge. But we do recognize that all of this cross jurisdictional boundaries on a regular basis, and that, that this is a more comprehensive regional effort to consider our transportation in the area, in the region. So what the heck is Transportation Demand Management, TDM for short? This is, we have been looking at transportation options for the area, parking management, not necessarily paid parking, financial incentives, and education and information. This is to improve multimodal options, as well help reduce congestion and reduce greenhouse gases. So this is a very high overview, very, very quick overview. What have we learned so far? The biggest takeaway so far is there is no single solution. This is going to be a multi-prong effort. People who tend to drive, who have the opportunity to drive, tend to choose that mode of transportation. For people who can't drive, what we're finding is that there are major challenges to connectivity and to what options already exist. So TDM is looking at creating those bridges between the options that exist, built, and making them better. as well, which will then alleviate much of the congestion that exists for those folks in cars. To do that, we have come up at the high level with 3 buckets of proposals that we have brought to community outreach so that people have a sense of what is available and to get feedback on what we think would work from boots on the ground. These 3 buckets, as you can see from the slide, is improving transportation options, supporting those transportation options with programs, incentives, and education. For instance, there are 3 different ways to rent a bike on the coast right now, and many people do not know about it. There's Ride Plus. Many people do not know about Ride Plus. Situations like that. And number 3, updating those regulations to meet the need to make those connections happen. So those are the 3 buckets, the backbone to grow those ideas into reality. The next step for the project is fold that feedback and ideas into strategies. We are now on phase 2. We've already been through phase 1. We're finishing up phase 2. Going into phase 3, we'll get those recommendations with feedback and finalize them and hopefully create a roadmap to move our transportation options forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Nichols. I'm the other Public Works and Sustainability Management Analyst working with Helen. And I'll be giving a presentation on some of the other grants that the city is working on as well. So just to say, the TDM program is funded by the Transit Authority. That's a joint grant between the city of Half Moon Bay and the County of San Mateo. These are some other grants that we also have that are transportation related. So to kick us off, transportation grants for the Class 1 bike ped infrastructure. So looking at that Highway 1 corridor from north of town to south of town, we have broken that into segments to make it more digestible, and each segment is in different phases right now with different forms of grant funding to hopefully build those segments of trail. So we have segment 1, which is right by the high school. We're expecting to begin construction on that project in 2025. Segment 2 just received $2 million for design and environmental review, and then we also received $1 million for the East Side Parallel Trail South. So that's looking from south of Main Street along Highway 1 to Miramontes Point Road. And so that map there kind of shows the different segments that we have, what's built, what's planned. And our overall goal with this is to create a continuous walkable, bikeable pathway along Highway 1 from north to south of town. Continuing on for that, we also received a grant from the SMCTA to conduct a corridor study from Miramontes Point Road to 92. And so what that is that's a grant that's going to allow us to do a study to look at transportation efficiency along that corridor. That's a pretty major stretch of highway. We get a lot of traffic there, especially in the tourist season. We have people going back and forth from work, home, to the beaches. And so that's going to be a multi-aspect study looking mostly at transportation efficiency. We're hoping to use this grant as a way to create documentation to allow us to go after further grants to hopefully implement the design and construction of that south segment for bike ped infrastructure. And then lastly, we also received an SS4A grant last year from the U.S. Department of Transportation. That grant is for $150,000, and that's going to be looking at safety, roadway safety throughout the entire city of Half Moon Bay. So looking at that 92 and Highway 1 corridors, as well as neighborhood streets in that downtown area. We are finishing up the contract for that and expect to begin work in the next few months, probably late 2024, 2025. And with that, we expect that project to take about 24 months from start. And that'll give us a safety plan, which we can also use to leverage for more grants for things like intersection improvements, safe routes to school improvements, primarily pedestrian bicycle safety infrastructure, things like that. Any questions?
For those who don't know, what's a Class 1 bike lane?
Great question. Yeah, so a Class 1 bike lane is going to be that designated bike lane that's off of the highway. They're typically between, I think the Caltrans spec is between like 8 and 10 feet wide. It's some kind of an engineered surface, whether it's a compressed like gravel or paved, cement, concrete. And those are pathways that are just for cyclists, pedestrians. You're getting those people further away from the cars, creating a safer, more comfortable pathway for them. Great question.
Any more questions, comments? Quick comment, or can you give us information about the Ride Plus program?
Yeah.
And how does that work?
Ride Plus is a program by Samtrans. It's a micromobility program where they're taking a small bus or a small van as opposed to a large bus, and it's an on-call service very similar to like an Uber or a Lyft, where you can either use their app, you can call a phone number, and I think you can also request a ride from their website. And so between, I want to say the hours of 8 to 5, currently, we're working on trying to expand those hours as well as expanding their range. You can basically set a time, they'll come and pick you up, take you where you want to go within the certain limits, and then you can also set them to come and pick you up afterwards. So say you live over at the senior center and you want to go to Safeway to get groceries. You can arrange that ahead of time, or when you're ready to go, they'll come pick you up, take you to Safeway, and you can then arrange for them to take you back home. And the range for that is from the harbor to Miramontes Point Road, I believe, but we're working on expanding that.
Would you like to mention the cost compared to an Uber?
Yeah, so for a while they were doing a free pilot program. I believe now they're charging standard bus fare for those trips. I'm not sure if, like bus fare, it gives you I think it's a 2-hour window, or if it's per trip. I need to check on that.
It's a lot less expensive.
It is definitely a lot less expensive, and it's hard to get an Uber or a Lyft here. That's why that program is so important.
There is also an application that you can have on your phone. Pretty much have them on call, and I believe the range goes from Purísima, from Verde Road, Purísima, to the airport, Highway 1, because it goes all the way to Cabrillo Farm.
Yeah, I'm a little iffy on the exact range, but yes, it's basically south of town all the way to the harbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments?
It works. I've used it. It's really good in comparison to things like what's it called? The medical thing that's supposed to work. That doesn't work. This one works.
And then also, I didn't know about this program, but there's another program through the Senior Center as well, where you can work with senior co-siders and they can arrange a trip to take you over the hill if you needed to go outside of that area and you happen to fall into that category. That's another resource too.
Yes, and I know the Samtrans is looking into expanding the service on the coast all the way to Pescadero and maybe going over the hill to El Camino. So it's let's hope it happens.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Now we have a couple of updates from our Administrative Services Director, Lisa Rossi. She'll be talking about healthcare access expansion and this week being Public Service Recognition Week.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have to admit I'm getting a little bit of a flashback of my first council meeting where I had to come up to the podium to introduce myself, so excuse me if I seem a little nervous. Tonight I'm actually going to be talking about healthcare advocacy, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about where it originated from, which was the age-friendly Half Moon Bay coastside. As you probably already know, Councilmember Rarbach is a member of this age-friendly group. We came together as a member of a collaborative of different member organizations in Half Moon Bay, which included government, nonprofits, medical, to come together to talk about different things that focus groups showed that seniors in the community needed. So some of the initial successes, we have now celebrated celebrated 2 years, and we are now planning for our next 3 to 5 years. But I just wanted to share some initial successes from our start date of March 2022, which was we did form the coalition. It has now morphed into a full-fledged group. We are called the Age-Friendly Half Moon Bay Coastside. And we enhanced communication about age-friendly activities, which included reinventing the senior page in the Half Moon Bay Review. And although that the review is no longer, we still do have coverage on the online version. We convened a group of stakeholders to advocate for improved access to healthcare. I will talk about that a little bit more in detail in the next slide. We hosted a workshop that was attended by all the county age-friendly communities, and that was quite an event where we were able to talk to other agencies who are a little bit more far along than we are and their successes, where they went sideways, and it was a good learning experience for us and a really good opportunity for us to learn best practices. And last but not least, we hosted a senior housing resource fair in May of 2023, which was very well attended, and the two committee members that hosted that worked with a lot of different agencies, including the city and nonprofits, to make sure that all avenues were covered for seniors, and there was more educational forums as part of that event. So tonight I wanted to give a brief update on the Healthcare Advocacy Committee. So this began in 2023 with 4 committee members, which was the city manager, Councilman Rarback, myself, and another community member, Christina Hahn. And with that, we planned out our goals, which was to just reignite advocacy for healthcare access. And what we meant by that was not only focusing on the at-risk and the non-insured, but also the fact that even insured patients here on the coast side, whether they're Kaiser or Sutter or Dignity Health, didn't necessarily have ready available healthcare options for them, and most seniors were not happy about having to go over the hill for their care. And some of them actually gotten to the point where they couldn't drive over the hill, and as we just learned, transportation options have just started getting better for them. When we started this committee, that was a huge issue. We're excited because now we're up to 20+ members, including representatives from a lot of the major health organizations, including Kaiser, Sutter, Dignity Health, Stanford, and Seton is now also engaged with us, as well as the county, who I have to admit the county has been engaged since the beginning of the committee. Our primary goal was set at accessing health care and primarily getting an urgent care out here on the coast side. This stemmed from the fact that in January 2023, we were very much realizing we all know how cut off the coast side can be. However, with our major thoroughway closed down and so many things happening between the storms and the shooting, access to health care was even at a more higher need. And families were finding that no matter what age their loved one was, finding urgent health care for them was quite trying. So we have tackled this on. We are now at a stage where we have convened a subcommittee that is primarily just the provider groups, and they are working to try to determine what would work best on the coast side. And so we remained involved with that as a point to return back to the Healthcare Advocacy Committee, because they will report back, but the work continues there. What I'm as excited about is that we also are collaborating with the nonprofit cohort, and we applied for Measure K funding for what we're calling a laboratory pilot project. This also stemmed from the group that's talking about urgent care. The idea was that if we could get a pilot laboratory to work here in Half Moon Bay, where people didn't have to go over the hill to get blood drawn, to get tests done, then we could, and this would be a collaborative effort between all these medical providers. So not one group would have the total responsibility, but they would all share the responsibility. It's quite a task, and we're figuring out kind of what it would look like, but with the joining of the nonprofit group and their voice at the table, it's actually giving us a better, fuller picture. And so now we're just waiting to see if we receive Measure K funding to put that towards this pilot project and figure out where we would hold these services here on the coast side. So it's pretty exciting. Where are we now? We are now planning our next action plan. So so AARP, as part of Age Friendly, they are the overhanging organization, asked that each group each city or county submit a 3 to 5 year action plan. And that is what we're doing both at our committee level and as a group as a whole for the age-friendly group. So the next time I come in front of you, hopefully I won't be as nervous, but we will also have our action plan planned out, and we will have Sandy Winter and Carol Joyce, who are our chairs of the age-friendly on the coast side, come and talk about our action plan and solicit support from the council for, again, submitting another application to AARP. So is there any questions or?
How many of the people in the audience could use an urgent care facility on the coast side? Raise your hand. Okay, that's what I figured. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more comments, questions? Yeah. No? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have one final update that Lisa will also be handling.
This doesn't have a slide. We wanted to just bring this to the council's attention and the public's attention that the week of May 5th through the 11th is Public Service Recognition Week. This week has started since 1985 and basically honors all the people who work in federal, state, local, and tribal governments. According to across the nation, there's 22 million dedicated people serving in government right now, and that's including public schools and universities. We thought it was important to bring this to a public meeting because, as you all know, our employees are some of the hardest working in Half Moon Bay. And the last year has shown the dedication and the passion they have for their work. I think I can speak for myself, but I also speak for a lot of other people that I work with, that we don't do this for the glamour or the money. We do this because we truly believe in serving our community, and we truly believe that working in government is a passion. And I think if you talk to any one of the city employees, they love what they do. It's not always pretty, and it's not always smooth, but you have to have a passion to be a public service employee. One of the things I was shocked to find, and I actually have to look at my notes, was in March, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were 492,000 vacancies in state and local government, but only 182 hires. So unfortunately, as we go into the future, we're finding a shortage of people who truly have a passion to work in government, and it's up to us who are in this position or in this field to really awaken the passion for working with government through young people, through interns, through all generations. So I thought tonight it just would be fitting to honor our employees and all employees who work under public service, as it is Public Service Recognition Week. And I think Matthew wanted to add a couple of things.
Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciate that, and just want to echo those comments. And it's not just about city employees. The coast side has a lot of public servants, whether it's county offices, this wonderful health clinic that's across the parking lot from us, our colleagues at the Coastside County Water District, the Sewer Authority, the Harbor District, Montero Water and Sanitary District, and the Granada Community Services District, the Resource Conservation District, and I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody and they're going to be mad at me, but there are a lot of people in our community, and that's one of the great things about the coast side, is so many of our employees and employees of those other agencies live here, work here, they're dedicated to this community, they're committed to it, and committed to making this community a wonderful place to live for everybody. And I just wanted to express my appreciation for our employees, but also for our colleagues at the other agencies, and to thank the council for all their support that they provide to us so that we can really act out our passion here in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. If I may say, there's no better way to show our appreciation, maybe a barbecue or cake, or I'm just saying, you know, we have to show our appreciation. You all do excellent work. And I think, we should look into it.
I can bake a cake
There you go.
and smoke a brisket, so.
All right, cake and briskets. Thank you. Make sure you extend the invitation to the council members. Thank you. It looks like we are done with our updates. Now we move on to a public forum. As a reminder, council members who are not able to engage, we are here to listen. For public forum, we're going to go 2 minutes per speaker. First speaker, Chloe Standis.
City Council members, I'm Chloe Standes. I live on Poplar Street. I'm the youth representative for Half Moon Bay Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I'm also an Eagle Scout candidate for Boy Scout Troop 4255. I'm speaking on my own behalf because I want your help to solve a problem that affects our community. As a part of my Eagle Scout project, I want to construct 3 to 5 concrete bonfire pits similar to those in Ocean Beach in San Francisco. This will include a safe space for locals and tourists to enjoy the beach and create a system of responsibility to help people clean up after themselves. As a teenager in Half Moon Bay, there's not much to do, and bonfires provide a fun and often wholesome place to socialize for locals and tourists alike. Yes, some stupid things happen, but mostly we're just doing what our ancestors did, gathering by the fire, telling stories, and building community. Having been chased out of my own fair share of bonfires with floodlights and PA systems, I can tell you firsthand that the current system for regulating bonfires in Half Moon Bay doesn't work. It encourages people to run away, leaving trash and fires unattended. It's also disruptive to neighbors when everybody flees the beach as fast as possible by foot, bike, and automobile. Some locals just come back a couple hours later or go to a different location like Redondo Beach. Tourists will go home and leave their trash for Half Moon Bay residents to deal with. As a local, I always clean up after myself, even if I have to return the next morning. My friends and I have picked up countless bags of trash for myself and others. I've been collecting feedback from Poplar Beach neighbors, Abundant Grace, the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec, and city staff on how to solve this problem. I have the support of community leaders such as Steve Muller, Adam Eisen, Alan Alifano, and Debbie Reddick, among others. I will work with city staff and first responders to come up with a comprehensive plan that cites fire pits appropriately and follows existing city law, which already allows for contained fire pits. I will raise the money necessary to pay for this project by myself, with no additional cost to the city. In order for me to move forward with the project, which will include a formal design to be reviewed and approved by the city engineer Moz has directed me to ask for your support in getting a coastal development permit so that I can complete the work this summer. In order for me to move forward, I ask that you direct city staff to support this project, which will create a system of accountability, improve public health, and maximize safe access to our beaches. Thank you for your time and your public service, and I look forward to giving you all an update on my progress.
Thank you. Next speaker is Chad Hooker.
Honorable Mayor and council members. I have some things to say. I thought I'd have 3 minutes. I have 2, so I'll probably say half of what I have to say.
Could you speak more into the mic, Chad, please?
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm here with a word of caution for council's consideration. This is in regards to the proposal for Mercy Housing by Mercy Housing at 555 Kelly, and I need to make 2 points. I'll try to do so with 1 point in my allotted time. That point is about Mercy Housing. I have some experience with this. Mercy is an inflexible landlord, not a partner, and I want council to be aware of this. They are difficult to work with when anything in an established project needs to be changed. By way of example, I can tell you I'm on the board of the Coastside Adult Day Health Center, and I have been for 40 years. We used to own all the land from Main Street back to Seacrest School. We intended to build a new center there. Then we began to have discussions with the senior Coastsiders and designed a proposed structure that we would jointly own and occupy there. Then at the county's behest, we began discussions with both Leslie and Mercy about building housing down there toward a senior campus. Now, we at the Adult Day Health Center are Mercy housing tenants, and we cannot get them to respond to any of our needs. The county asked us to become an emergency operations center, but they told us we needed backup power. Mercy will not put in a whole full building generator because it was not in their original plans. So we proposed that we would install a Tesla battery bank in a mechanical room that is part of our leased space, prove to them that it would fit there. We got a state grant for $52,000 to pay for that battery bank, and also the solar panels to charge it. Mercy said no. They didn't give us any reason why, they just said no. So we reapplied for the grant the next year and got it. This time, I went to Mercy and pushed it through to their National Director of Environmental Sustainability. Seemed like the right place to go with battery backup and solar. But again, without any site review, they denied our request. So our city does not have an emergency operations center there, not because we don't need it, but because Mercy won't cooperate. And you should be aware of this. This is who you're dealing with if you have them build something out here. It appears that they're all about getting affordable housing projects built with tax credit financing, and then managing them as built. But
Chad, can you please wrap it up?
Moving on to their next project, so be aware of that. My other point that I wanted to make goes to what the project itself is.
Can you, time is up, yes.
I've made notes here, so I'll give each of you a copy. In addition, there are notes here, a lot of numbers that come from their drawings and their pro forma. So I've got copies here for each of the 5 council people. I hope this is helpful in your addressing this difficult decision that's coming your way.
Thank you, Chad. Next speaker, Juliet Kulda.
Good evening. My name is Juliet Kulda. I have been a Half Moon Bay resident for 30 years now and a local realtor for 21 years. I would like to comment this evening on 2 items regarding housing. The first is regarding Measure D. As we know, supply and demand plays into house prices and affordability. By limiting the growth in the city of Half Moon Bay to 1% and additionally adding ADUs into the count, I believe Measure D restrictions have played into our housing shortage. These additional units would be built and paid for by our local landowners, and I believe our community would benefit from them. Year over year, our city has been denying building permits for several homes, and I hope that we can adjust Measure D to accommodate for the needs for growth, or at least exclude ADUs from the count. My second comment is in regards to the 555 Kelly Avenue project. I personally have visited the local farms just after the tragic murders that shocked our community in January of last year. I was involved in arranging blessings on these properties, in addition to helping plan candlelight vigil and interfaith services, along with many in this room. The thought of having access to over $40 million by the state to help build our farm workers' housing seems to be an incredible blessing for our farm workers. I think we have a responsibility to spend it well and build beautiful homes that have nearby parking spots and safe outdoor areas for children and grandchildren to play. The proposed 5-story, 40-unit building with such a small building footprint comes with challenges and concerns, not just for the residents of the building, but also for nearby properties. I believe while we think we're doing a good thing, in reality, this design will create a limited lifestyle for the residents while also reducing already needed parking for nearby businesses like our Saturday Farmers Market. From what I saw, it appears we are only adding the same amount of parking spots that we're removing with a net gain of 0. I believe we can do much better for our farm worker families by doing one or two things. Either relocate this housing project to a larger lot, such as a few acres of the 37 acres already owned
Can you
by
please
Half Moon Bay.
wrap it up?
Yes, either relocating to the 37 acres owned by Half Moon Bay between Terrace and Grandview, or consider a redesign to extend the footprint in the current location and maybe use the whole entire parcel that the city already owns here, which includes this Ted Adcock Community Center and the skate park.
Thank you.
Moving these two to a different location.
Thank you. Next speakers are George. What is it? Mutive.
My writing isn't very good.
Thank you.
Used to be, but I'm getting old. First of all, thank you. Good evening. I don't have much time, and so I'm going to get right to it. First of all, I would like to inform you that I feel fairly ignorant. I don't like that feeling. But the first I heard of 555 Kelly was when Chad Hooker placed a piece in the review. And I have to tell you, it got my attention. Affordable housing has been an issue here on the coast, whether it's farm labor, teachers, whoever, it doesn't matter. It's been an issue on the coast here for decades. And it's a legitimate issue that has been kicked down the road, and here we are now. So we're kind of feeling pressure from the powers that be to get it done quickly. I would rather see it done right. I'm not opposing the project, but I am saying that I think it can be better. You're sitting on 0.3 acres of land in the heart of downtown. It's imperative to make this work for Half Moon Bay. One of my concerns, one of which is the busiest intersection, and it's directly across from Cunha and the Boys and Girls Center. There are known safety issues that need to be addressed. Traffic being obviously one of them. Twice a day, that place is going to be a nightmare. I would also ask that, please ask you to ask the Planning Commission to take their time to get the best project we can possibly get. The Planning Commission hasn't even had time to discuss this matter, and by doing that, it shows that yes, they're listening to the public, but they haven't had a chance to discuss it. So it puts speed in front of quality, and that's troubling to me. So I just wanted to take a minute, just ask you guys to ask the Planning Commission to take their time to get it right as it can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Next speaker, Derek Kulda.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Derek Kulda. I'm a Half Moon Bay business owner and parishioner at Our Lady of the Pillar Catholic Church, and I've been a member of the church for 30 years. I am here to comment on the 555 Kelly project. At the housing development hearings, I was moved by many of the comments in support of the housing for our farm workers. They were heartfelt and showed beautiful care for our brothers and sisters of lower incomes. One of our focuses at Our Lady of the Pillar is alleviating food and housing insecurities in our local community. In this work, we get a good feel for the sentiments and culture of the community. We currently serve 600 households per month, providing food support, rental assistance, PG&E assistance, and homeless care needs. So aligning as a community to support the housing needs of our brothers and sisters feels good, and it is good. But that doesn't make every proposal for it good. Our Lady of the Pillar is for dignified housing for our farm workers, but not all of us are in support of the current proposal at 555 Kelly. I will address some of the provisions of the written conditions of approval and then give our reasoning. To cut time here, the conditions of approval mention a partnership between ALAS and some arrangement about parking. I just want to clarify that I have letters from both our pastor and the Archdiocese that there is no partnership between Our Lady of the Pillar and ALAS, and there are no parking provisions or arrangements at all with the developer or ALAS. And the reasoning for some of us not being for it is size and scale, number one. Number two is density and parking. As what the gentleman here said, we're just worried about it being really congested here in town. And the third one is alternative locations. In summary, we are in support of affordable housing and not in support of the magnitude of this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. Rocío Ávila.
So Rocio Avila is going to give her comment, and then I'll go ahead and do a side translation afterwards.
Buenas noches, miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Rocío Ávila y soy miembro del Comité de Viviendas Justas de Alas. Estoy triste de saber que hemos estado por más de 2 años viniendo aquí para abogar por mi familia y las familias latinas. Les he hablado de nuestras necesidades de vivienda y las situaciones en las que estamos por falta de vivienda, ya que compartimos la vivienda con otras familias. Ahora que se presentó el proyecto de 55 Kelly ante la Comisión de Planeamiento, están poniendo tantos peros que no cumple la altura, que los parqueaderos, que la arquitectura colonial de Half Moon Bay, que el tráfico, que el lugar no es apropiado. Ahora díganme ustedes, ¿cuándo va a haber un lugar adecuado? ¿Cuando venga otra tragedia? ¿Cómo es que se ha propuesto que se va a construir 480 unidades de vivienda asequible del 2023 al 2031? Quiero entender cómo se logrará si ahora con la propuesta del proyecto de 55 Kelly para trabajadores agrícolas mayores de edad se están oponiendo. ¿Dónde está el apoyo de todos ustedes para que se pueda realizar? ¿Qué podemos esperar de los demás proyectos? Si nos dicen, sí queremos viviendas, pero que sean en otro lugar, como muchas personas lo han dicho y ahora lo he escuchado, están a favor, pero ¿a dónde nos quieren mandar? ¿Fuera del pueblo? Afuera del pueblo siempre han dicho lo mismo, no están cerca de las escuelas, no están cerca de las tiendas, no hay lavandería, no hay clínica. Tantos peros para los proyectos. También nosotros necesitamos un hogar y un hogar digno para nuestras familias y nuestras personas que trabajan en el campo durante muchos años. Gracias.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Rocio Avila, and I'm a member of Just Housing for Alas. I'm sad to know that we have been at this for over 2 years with housing here and advocating for my family and the Latino families as well. I've talked to you all about our needs for housing and the situations that we are in for the lack of housing as well. Because we are sharing the housing with other families. Now, in front of you is this project of 555 Kelly, and before the Planning Commission as well. And there are so many buts to this project. But it's not high enough, or it's too high. But the parking lots this and the parking lots that. But the architecture isn't adequate. But not in Half Moon Bay. The traffic, that the place isn't adequate. Now, you all tell me, when is it going to be appropriate or adequate? When there's another massacre? So how is it that you're going to propose to build 480 units of affordable housing from 2023 to 2031? I want to understand how that's going to happen now. And with this project, the proposed project of 555 Kelly, for the farm workers, for the older farm workers, if you're going against it, how is that going to happen? Where is the support of all of you so that this can become a reality? What can we wait from other projects even? If you don't tell us, actually you're telling us that you do want this type of housing, but not in this place, like other people have said it. They've said, we can give you housing, but it's out there, not close by. It's not close by to certain services that people may be able to walk to. And so we've heard this over and over again, saying, not here, somewhere else, the outskirts. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Rocío. Next speaker, Joanne Rukowski.
Good evening. Thank you for the privilege of speaking tonight, and I'm going to change the subject. I'm here to thank you for your ongoing support of tenants in Half Moon Bay and by extension on the coast side. I hope other jurisdictions in San Mateo County might be motivated to follow your lead and to promote housing justice for all members of the coastside community. I applaud you for your actions to develop, and I hope tonight approve this comprehensive set of tenant protections. And I do believe that the package represents housing justice, justice for tenants whose rents are being unjustly raised or whose rights have been violated, and justice for landlords who should be able to make periodic, reasonable rate increases and have allowances made for unusual circumstances. As has been said previously, tenant protections are needed now while renters wait for much needed affordable housing to be built. The amount of time it takes to get this housing built is only that much clearer in the light of the ongoing deliberations and delay tactics related to the project at 555 Kelly. That said, having protections in place is beneficial only when those protections are understood and acted upon. So I urge continued efforts at education in people's native language about the specific details contained in these ordinances. For example, making sure that tenants know that even if the unit they're in does not qualify for rent control, they are eligible for rental protections, tenant protections. And I know this effort can't be a one-off. It's going to take time, lots of time, and there's going to be a need to work with trusted partners. But I do believe it's necessary for Half Moon Bay to truly enact this series of tenant protections. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Mary Vega.
Sí, buenas tardes a todos.
Mari,
¿Me escuchan?
sí, Mari, ¿nos puede esperar un momento para que se prepare Víctor para traducción?
Ok, gracias.
Gracias.
Buenas tardes, Mari. Habla Víctor Hernández, voy a ser el traductor.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Bueno, adelante, por favor.
Antes que todo, buenas tardes a todos.
So I just want to say good evening to all.
Quiero expresar mi profunda tristeza al ver que no se está haciendo este proyecto de la 55 Kelly.
I want to express my deep sadness for this project not going through at 555 Kelly.
Era un proyecto que a nosotros los latinos nos daba mucha esperanza. para
So-
nuestras familias y los campesinos.
It's a project that actually gave all of our families, Latino families, and the farm workers a lot of hope.
Y ver que tantas oposiciones ahora, un proyecto que ya estaba a punto de construirse se quiere desvanecer, nos tiene realmente tristes.
And it's really sad to see all of the opposition for a project that was just about to be pushed through.
Con las esperanzas rotas,
Broken dreams, broken hopes.
porque nuestros niños esperaban grandes cosas con este proyecto.
Because our children hoped for great things with this project.
Era un comienzo nuevo para muchas familias y vendrían nuevos proyectos para nosotros, esperanzas nuevas.
So it was a new beginning for a lot of people and hope for other projects as well.
Espero que realmente reconsideren y se logre hacer este proyecto porque realmente es una necesidad.
So I'm hoping that you reconsider and we actually push this project because it's a great need.
Gracias por escucharnos.
Thank you for listening to us.
Gracias, Mari.
Oh, one more.
Sorry.
Carolina?
Give me one second. Buenas tardes, Carolina. Habla Víctor.
Hola, buenas noches.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, gracias.
Adelante, por favor.
Como todos, muy buenas tardes a todos y como saben, nuestra preocupación en este momento como la comunidad latina es la 55 Kelly.
So, as with everybody else, good evening to all. And our concern right now, all of the Latinos, is 555 Kelly.
Creo que como comunidad todos estábamos pensando que esto ya era más que todo una realidad.
So, as a community, we were all thinking that perhaps this was already a reality.
Y en estos días nos hemos dado cuenta de cuán frágil es a veces el ser humano y tan fácil de cambiar de opinión.
And these past few days, we've really kind of taken notice as to how fragile humans can be and how quickly opinions change.
Ya que tal parece que nuestro proyecto en este momento se está derrumbando.
Looks like the project is crumbling.
Y creo que hubiera sido oportuno que desde un principio no nos hubieran dado falsas esperanzas con ese proyecto.
And it would have been nice from the beginning to not give us false hopes for the project.
Pues la comunidad en estos días que se ha estado participando en la comisión,
Because the
se ha dado
community
cuenta
because the community these past few days have been participating with the commission.
nos hemos podido dar cuenta de cuánta oposición hay en contra de este proyecto.
So we've noticed how much opposition is against this project.
Que beneficiará a las personas que están moviendo a este pueblo.
That would benefit people that are moving to this town.
Les queremos pedir que por favor
We want to ask you, please,
si la comisión decide que ustedes tomarán la rienda de este proyecto, por favor no lo desechen.
that if the commission says that the council takes the reins of this project, please don't discard it.
Siempre hemos pensado que ustedes están a favor de nuestra construcción de vivienda.
We've always thought that you're in favor of this housing construction.
Por favor, no hagan que el pueblo siga pensando que queremos volver más rico al rico.
Please don't think that we want you to believe that the rich are getting richer.
y muchas gracias por su tiempo.
And thank you very much for your time.
Gracias, Carolina. Anybody else? No? Thank you. We are going to move on to our consent calendar. We're going to put item 1D. May I have a motion to approve the rest of the items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we pulled 1D so that we could hold a separate vote on that? Yeah. So I don't think you need a staff report, you just need, somebody needs to make a motion on the 1D and.
Someone make a motion, 1D?
I pulled it because I'm going to probably vote differently from you, so. Under the staff recommendation, 1D.
I move that we waive the second reading and adopt an ordinance creating a new Chapter 6.06 titled Residential Rent Stabilization.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Reddick?
No.
Vice Mayor Rohrbach?
Yes.
Mayor Jimenez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the remaining parts of the consent calendar. No? No, we changed that. Never mind. No, you made a big deal about that before. Okay.
Thank you. Double down. We have no ordinance or public hearings, so we're going to move forward to resolutions and staff reports. 3A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to wait a moment for our Public Works Director, Maz Bozerginia, to join us in the room, and I believe Helen Walter will join him at the podium.
Okay, there we go.
Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and public. Maz Bozerginia, Public Works Director, City Engineer. I'm here with Helen Walter, our Senior Management Analyst and sustainability. We are here to present the municipal energy projects item, and Helen will be moving forward with the PowerPoint. We also have a representative, Jason Boyd with Wildan, in the audience, who's available for questions after the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, I am Helen Walter, Senior Management Analyst, here tonight to discuss the municipal energy projects and an energy services contract. This is would be with Wildan under Government Code 4217.12. Our outline will be to begin with a background, a recommendation, our discussion, followed by next steps. Oops. Background. Adding solar photovoltaic has been a council priority since 2019. It is part of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, Phase 1, that was passed in 2023. In particular, it meets the sections of that plan that would to employ carbon-free electricity for all municipal operations. I'll let you read all of this. Electrify all municipality facilities by 2025 and increase energy efficiency of all facilities and operations. Based on that, those prior direction, council directed staff to work with Wildan at the February 6th, 2024 council meeting. At that point and today, the proposed sites for solar are the City Hall parking lot, the Sheriff Substation EOC parking lot, as well as, because this is a comprehensive plan, EV charging at City Hall and electrification of City Hall, the Community Center, the train depot, the Corporation Yard, and the EOC. We are allowed by law to do this type of contract, an energy service contract, under California Government Code 4217.12. This code authorizes a city to enter into an energy services contract for the implementation of energy-related improvements if the council finds that it is in the best interest of the city, if the anticipated cost to the city for the energy conservation services provided under the contract will be less than the anticipated cost to the city of energy that would have been consumed in the absence of those purchases. And this is the key point of tonight's meeting, in addition to the contract with Wildan. So the key point is this contract intends to save money in the long run. So this slide is also pretty dense because the anticipated cost to the city for energy conservation services provided by the improvements under the contract is expected to be less. I'm sorry to be redundant, but I want to make sure that we understand why we are allowed by law to do this contract. Additionally, because of our timing, this contract would allow the city to leverage, the window is still open to leverage the NIM 2.0, that's net energy metering tariff billing, which is a subsidized government the way we're billed is quite a huge subsidy. So we're able to sell solar energy back to the grid, which is much more cost effective for users, the NIM 3.0. And we would be saving money, be net positive at year 13. So I put together this graph so that you can see it, which is tricky for you guys at the dais. Hopefully you can, are you able to see these slides from your? Oh, great, okay, thank you, I wasn't sure about that. The blue column, the red column, the yellow column matches the graphing. So the blue graph line is what we expect the city to pay over 30 years without the program, those costs. The red is the expected energy cost with the program, and the yellow is our expected costs, energy savings. Now what's funky, this graph, it took, like when I first looked at it, it was very strange, that jump at year 20, but that's because year 20, that the NIM 2 billing only lasts for 20 years. So you can see the cost difference with NIM 2, moving it off onto NIM 3. For the energy services contract to continue, it's a comprehensive electrification and energy savings project. This energy services contract, excuse me. Thank you. So it would take the city's capital investment of $200,000, which was budgeted for the roof repair in our facilities budget of 2023-24. That, by then using those funds, and I recognize the deficit we're facing, but by using what's already been budgeted, it then leverages many pots of incentives and grants to allow for a $1.35 million project. So I wanted to go through what those pots of money are. There's $465,000 in project incentives, 205 from PCE, 46,000 from PG&E, and in federal, under the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA Act, 214,000. Then there are 2 loans the city would need to take on. One would be a government buildings electrification loan from PCE for $320,000, and a TELP, which is a tax-exempt loan to allow electrification. Next steps. This is the overall process. We have been in the preliminary analysis of this project. It is a no-cost proposal at this point, but if council decides to move forward, there is a $29,000 contingency fee and then we would, if we move forward to the project implementation, that is included in the project implementation of the $200,000. Following that, then, once it's implemented and built, there would be a performance, Wildan calls it the fancy name of performance maximization. But it's basically everything would be turned on. We would then start saving money energy-wise. So recommendation, provide direction to staff as required by California Government Code Section 4217.12, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an energy service contract with Wildan Energy Solutions for comprehensive solar voltaic system purchase and municipal energy-related improvements to increase the energy efficiency of all municipal facilities and operations. Thank you, and I'm happy to take questions.
Questions?
Is the EV charging going to be AC like we have now at City Hall, or are we going to go the whole hog and have actual public DC charging?
I think I can answer that. And Jason, if you have anything else to add. Right now, we're still we haven't gone to that level of the design phase, but that's something we would look at. There are other things to consider, such as load demand on the system, because the EV charging and the photovoltaic, we're not talking about battery storage as part of this project. So we'll have to take a close look at what that means with regards to the demand for that service that we currently have. At minimum, it would be the Class 2 chargers that we currently have that are public facing. This one would be in the City Hall parking lot for future electrification of our fleets, as well as patrons that utilize the parking lot. But we'll take a closer look to see what, how best we can make that, and whether we can support a faster charger and the DC chargers.
I would encourage that, Malice.
Why is battery backup not included at this phase?
Right, because the battery pots of money are lagging behind these other pots of money that are available right now. So right now, it's far too expensive to add battery storage. They're coming, they're in the pipeline, but at this point, battery storage is still quite expensive.
And they also take up quite a bit of space. I think long-term, it's something that we can look at and consider adding in a future phase, similar to other facilities that we have. And hopefully with technology and sizes of batteries, that it becomes something that's more easily integrated. But we do have the opportunity to look after other funds in the future to add on to these systems.
Well, I certainly would, when you're engineering the infrastructure, that you think ahead to battery storage and account for that if you can in the planning, because it seems to me that is a real critical component and it makes everything else kind of leverages the power there. So that would be my concern. Yeah.
Agreed.
Any more comments, questions? No? What do you need from us? A motion. Do I have any public comment? Item 3A, no?
Carlisle and Young.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I was there when you first were vetting the different suppliers, and I did mention, that was during the power failure that we had. It was a multi-day power failure on the coast side. And of course, the mid-coast got it worse than the city of Half Moon Bay, but it's still, the point was that what Deborah Ruddock brought up about needing battery backup, the solar arrays don't do any good if you can't store the power. In those kind of situations, you're out after a few hours of running on solar. So I just thought you might consider getting battery backup at the same time. Maybe you're just trying to do it on the cheap so you can not have to put out any city money, but it does seem to me that it's really going to be a necessary thing over time, and hopefully, as someone else said, you will plan ahead for it and not have to reconfigure everything just to include it later down the road when you find a pot of money. But I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, that's a question. So how soon could we add the batteries to the system?
So we actually have a Lightning in our fleet right now, the electric Ford truck, and it's bi-directional. And by state law, we are having to convert to our fleet. We're going to have to buy some new cars in the near future. The park and rec vehicle probably will get replaced. We probably my guess is we'll need to have 2 lightnings, and those are bidirectional, and so that is actually a cheaper way to have some battery backup. It's not enough to do everything, but we will definitely, Will Dan's here, he's hearing this. If you'd like to say anything about batteries while you're here, do you have any comments that can add to this conversation? But batteries are, right now, the incentives have not materialized yet for many batteries, basically.
Yeah, and if I may add, there's, again, there's a high cost with those batteries up front. And what Helen's saying essentially is our electric vehicles can act as a battery in itself, where you can plug them in. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we especially our public works fleet, they are first responders and emergency workers at times. And so there's a little bit of a balance there as far as having vehicles that can be available when necessary. Having our facilities operational even during prolonged periods of low generation of solar. And so there is that long-term concern that comes into play, and that's why we have these, the backup generators, because even with battery backups, there are limitations to how much you can store. And when you look at the calculation of the space that you need for the amount of, if you're looking for a 10-day period of no power, for example, and looking at what that load demand is on your system, how many things you're trying to run off of the battery backup, it increases the size and the need. And so, as we looked at in the library, there's this trade-off when it comes to the battery backup, how much you put in and how much is available. So again, the fact that we're going to have bidirectional wiring is supportive of the battery in the future to be included. And we'll have to take a closer look at what those demands are, the space that's available for these batteries, and we can certainly look at that in a future phase as we move forward.
Again, looking into the future, in a number of years, when would you expect for the city to have the battery packs available for us? Let's say 2, 3, 10 years.
I think when you're looking at, I think when we're looking at it from the perspective of incentives, especially from the state, I think, yes, you're looking, once some of the funding sources become available, I think that's when we start looking at it. So I'm hopeful in the next 2 to 5 years, we start looking at implementing battery backups.
2 to 5 years, sounds good. Thank you.
Is there anything that says we have to act tonight? The reason I ask that is, we're coming upon, some fiscal year budget workshops, and I'd kind of like to take a look at our spending at a sort of macro level and see how all the pieces are starting to fit together, because we do have a structural deficit. So if we have to move forward, fine, but I'm thinking I'm going to abstain, not because I'm against doing this, but I need to see the budget. I'm concerned about.
So I did want to make sure that you are aware, if we do not have the EOC interconnection agreement finalized by August of 24 and for City Hall by February of 25, we will lose we will lose the NIM 2. So that is our window.
So we're just talking about, we're going to start talking about the budget at the end of this month, so I don't anticipate big delays. I don't know how my fellow council members feel about that.
Losing a NEM 2.0 is a big deal, and I think we should do whatever we can to make sure that NEM 2.0 is part of the agreement. So I would like to get this done clearly tonight, if possible.
Did I just hear that we had till August?
August of 24, and we've been going back and forth trying to get this tracked down with PG&E, but that is my understanding, and it's going to be tight, and if Wildan wants to add to this, but my understanding if it passes tonight, it will be tight to make it to August 24, is my understanding, what I've been told. So that's that's what, if you want, but I do recognize the budget constraints of our city right now.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add, absolutely understand the concerns, and we appreciate the council's aware of the budget issues ahead of us and recognizing the tough decisions we're going to have to make. I will just share in my work with Public Works and talking about this, it's really been structured to have a minimal fiscal impact on the city directly. It's built to pay for itself over time. And Maz, correct me if I'm wrong, but the two kind of cash or funding pieces that come from the city do not impact the general fund. We have funding already set aside in our CIP for the roof replacement project at City Hall. That funding can be diverted to this project, which of course we wouldn't want to do the roof replacement and then come back later and do solar. So it makes sense to do it all together. And then we have some rebates coming.
Yeah, there's also some additional money from PCE, some payback on the rates that they had collected through the different jurisdictions. So we're looking at another approximately $150,000 from them towards these types of projects.
Yeah. So we certainly could take that funding. Obviously, money carries over year to year, and it could be incorporated on a one-time basis into our fiscal year budget for next year. And those funds could be used for different projects, but these are one-time sources of funds. They're not going to have an impact on our long-term structural deficit. And so really, we see it as an investment, a minimal investment that doesn't have a direct impact on our ongoing structural deficit. But over the long term will save us money, and I think more than anything is in alignment with the council's priorities to look at sustainability of facilities.
Yeah, as I remember correctly, that's what we actually talked about back in January when it was introduced to us, that we were going to make a decision or following or continuing agenda item, that it was today, because we're on a tight time to approve this item.
I do appreciate the comments from our city manager. Helps me understand that a little better, so thank you for that.
Ready to make a motion?
I move, as required by California Government Code 4217.12, that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an energy services contract with Willdan Energy Solutions for comprehensive solar photovoltaic system purchase and municipal energy-related improvements to increase the energy efficiency of all municipal facilities and operations with a total expenditure amount not to exceed $1,485,000, which includes a 10% contingency. Second.
Second. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Reddick?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burbach?
Yes.
Mayor Jimenez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll take a 8-minute break, come back at 8:55.
Thank you.
Welcome back to our City Council meeting, May 7th, 2024. Move on to item 3B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. To the rowdy crowd in the audience, please, I need you guys to be a little quiet while I present. Maz Bozerginia, Public Works Director, happy to be here tonight to present our summer beach update for the 2024 year. In the past, we have done more robust updates, especially around COVID. We saw an influx of visitors, a lot of interesting behavior on our local streets next to our beaches and our parking lots. And over the past several years, we've brought back these updates just to provide the community and the council a little bit of a snapshot of what we're doing, and also to get feedback from the community and council on things we can do this year, next year, and moving forward. So really tonight, there's no action to be taken. I'll provide a brief report, and then I'm happy to take any questions, comments, and feedback you have for us. So again, just a little background. Obviously, San Mateo County Coast, including the city of Half Moon Bay, is a prime recreation destination for not just the Bay Area, but from around the world. We've got several state and city beaches within our city limits, and there are a lot more outside of our city limits. To name a few, we have the Half Moon Bay State Beach, which comprises Francis, Venice, and Dunes beaches. We have 3 local city beaches: Poplar Beach, Surfers Beach on the north end of town, and then Manhattan Beach, or Cañada Verde Beach, or Marimanes Point Beach. I've seen them all listed in different ways depending on what map you're looking at. But that's the one at the end of Marimanes Point Road on the west side before you get to the golf course in the Ritz-Carlton. We also have a link to on our website for the community that may be watching at home or looking at the PowerPoint later on. We have links to not just the city beaches, but also links to state park beaches where you can get reservations, parking passes, all those good things. For tonight, we'll just do an overview on 4 major focus areas: public outreach and notification, patrol and enforcement, traffic and parking management, and last but not least, public facilities and amenities. So for public outreach and notification, in the past, we have done multiple ways of getting outreach. Obviously, local outreach is important just to let our residents and locals know about what to expect, although most folks don't need the reminder, especially folks who have been here for at least a couple of years. But there's also other things we do outside of that will be a little bit further reaching. We utilize 501 and SMC Alert on occasions, depending on special events, weekend, holiday weekends, Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, as well as Labor Day. And we also utilize variable message signs, or VMS signs, or changeable message signs. They're used in different ways. But essentially, those electronic message boards, we usually try to get our CHP, local CHP office involved to put those messages out through Caltrans, not on the coast side, but on the bay side, to let folks know about potential traffic impacts, reminding them of what types of, depending on if it's 4th of July, reminding them there's no fireworks on the beaches. Bless you. There's no fireworks on the beaches, things of that nature. We also utilize our own portable changeable message signs that we post on local roads and highways. The sheriff's office and the city have a combined 4 in our stock. We've generally been placing them on Highway 92 as you get to Main Street, and then we put it on Kelly Avenue, Poplar Street. There is a 4th one that we found this year that we're working on getting operational, and we're looking at where it would be best placed. We have a couple of ideas, but there's also the potential to move them around based on the holiday weekend and where issues are popping up.
Any chance of something on the other side of the hill?
Yes, on the other side of the hill, we'll be focusing on 280 and message boards on 101, the ones over the highways, the large ones. So those are controlled by Caltrans and CHP. So what we coordinate with them closely through our sheriff's office to make sure that that communication is out there. Folks that can expect delays, things of that nature, because at some point there's the peak demand for traffic is so high that folks may want to go different directions, different routes, different locations. But yeah, we definitely will work with Caltrans and our highway patrol to make sure that those messages get out beyond just our coastal area. We also will utilize social media channels through our communications office, Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, just to name the three widely used ones. We also will provide updates through e-news. That's going to be more targeted towards locals and residents and coastside members that have signed up. And then another big one is working with the school district, Career Unified, and the San Mateo County Office of Education and other school districts, because we do become a haven for especially seniors graduating high school. They love to come to our beaches. But obviously there's many things there. There's safety risks with concerns with our riptides and it's been on the beach specifically, but also want to make sure that the schools educate their students. We don't want to see litter and garbage on the beaches. That had been a big issue in the past, and it still is from time to time. But especially around COVID time, there was quite a bit of litter that was left over from some of those activities. So we want to make sure we get the word out to the appropriate school districts and superintendents to try to get that broader reach with our younger visitors. As far as the police patrol and enforcement, the sheriff's office, through our existing contract, has a language in there that increases services during our peak seasons, which are pretty much it starts with Memorial Day weekend and it ends with Labor Day. And so what that entails is additional beach and trail patrols utilizing the off-road vehicle that the sheriff's office has, the Polaris. Public Works also has one, similar, same vehicle that we utilize for our needs. So that'll be utilized, especially during those peak seasons with crowded roadways and beaches. There will also be additional patrols of our parking lots and adjacent neighborhoods and public areas, especially during late evening and early morning hours. We also look at additional staffing during those holiday weekends. Usually the sheriff's office will double up on their deputies and incorporate an additional community service officer, especially for those 3 holiday weekends I mentioned. And they also will continue working with California Highway Patrol, CHP, on enforcement needs along the coast. Highway 1 is a state highway, and general jurisdiction is the California Highway Patrol. And so working with them to make sure that those resources are available in addition to the increased sheriff's office resources really enables us to provide the level of support and visibility that our community is expecting. On the traffic and parking management, there is obviously a major increase during these busy seasons on both highways 92 and 1, especially on those holiday weekends, as I mentioned, but also with heat waves. We get quite a bit of influx of visitors on even regular weekdays during the hot summer months when folks on the other side of the hill are experiencing heat waves of 100 degrees and beyond. And so that obviously will translate to increased traffic impacts for our community, the coast side as a whole, as well as delays. Parking demand on our public beaches and our parking lots are generally enough for regular demand, but there is definitely spillover when it comes to our summer months. And what that tends to do is spills over into our public parking in our neighborhoods. And so, working with law enforcement, identifying those hot spots, I think those are the critical things that we continue to do to try to reduce those impacts on our neighbors that live in these areas next to beaches, but as well as protecting the environment and making sure that people are behaving appropriately, not leaving trash, things of that nature. So what we're going to, again, we're going to continue the enforcement, with the increased presence on traffic and parking regulations. And as we talked a little bit earlier with our project with the county, our transportation demand management, we have to continue searching for other ways to manage our traffic. Unfortunately, the capacity on 92 is limited, and widening 92 is not something that has been favorable from the community perspective. And so it's very limited what we can do internally when those receiving highways have reduced capacity. And so we'll continue looking at different ways. We've floated ideas in the past as far as intelligent transportation systems, ITS systems, looking at real-time coordination between signals.
Maybe an aerial tram?
Yeah, alternative modes of transportation, whether it's a tram system or AI shuttles. I mean, there's quite a bit of things that are popping up that may support that. And through the TDM, I think that's one of the areas that we're going to look at as well, is not just for routine, weekdays and weekends, but also during these peak seasons. Are there things that we can utilize to reduce the dependency that the visitors have on passenger vehicles? I think just reducing the number of cars is going to be critical. And so when going through that process, identifying potential park and ride locations and shuttle types of services, looking at Ride Plus and increasing their stretch and funding and hours. I mean, those are the types of things that we're going to have to continue looking at. But ultimately, access to the coast is protected under our California Coastal Act and is part of a backbone of our local economy. And so we want to try to make it as pleasant as possible for our locals that hunker down during those busy seasons. But it's also about making sure that visitors are able to experience what the coast provides as a natural amenity. I also wanted to talk specifically a little bit about Redondo Beach Road. There's been a lot of conversation, especially recently with projects and development potential for visitor-serving uses. And so, and this is something that I wanted to bring up, and also looking for feedback from council, is that we're considering we've reached out and we've spoken with our Coastal Commission staff, as we do on our other access points like Wave Crest and on Poplar Street. We do have gates that we could look at closing for security purposes. There is a concern with regards to coastal access, and so that's something that we look very closely on. And for Redondo Beach Road, it's a little bit unique in that there is no other pathway. It's a narrow road, and with the closure of that gate, it could prohibit access at certain times. And so right now we're considering a permit application for a gate closure that would go before our Planning Commission under our Coastal Act. There's also looking at potential tweaks to the location of the gate. Right now where it is, it's just east of the access to the yard for golf links. And so there's really no turnaround area. So if we lock the gate and somebody goes down that way, there is a potential for them to have to go on the shoulder to turn around. And so those are some of the specifics that we have to look at and evaluate before, as part of our coastal development permit application. We want to make sure that what we do isn't going to increase issues on those shoulder areas into the sensitive habitat. There's wetlands that are close by. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And so there's a potential for relocation of that gate just based on the width of the road and being able to turn around for folks that may not know that the gate's locked after hours. Last but not least, public facilities and amenities. Public Works, we have through the council's support, we've had for the last couple of years a maintenance assistant position that is focused specifically on working Thursdays through Sundays. That allows us to provide additional garbage and litter pickup. We have a number of increases in some of the amenities, portable amenities that we do. For example, at the end of Kelly, we provide an ADA porta potty for patrons to use. We're also considering, I know there's also been comments and requests for additional garbage bins, and so we're looking at strategic locations around Kelly perhaps, where we can add additional refuse bins for our visitors to have easier access. Generally, if we're trying to make it simpler for folks to make sure that they clean up after themselves. That's been always the biggest problem. There's limitations with staffing, and if we have smaller bins spread out, there's an operational challenge with that. But we're looking at ways of doing it, and right now we're considering the potential of adding one bin at the end of Kelly Street, so that folks that are using other points of access like the equestrian access point, that there's something that's close by instead of folks having to carry it all the way to their cars. So we're looking at ways to make it easier for folks to do the right thing too. And again, with the increase in our staffing, we also have the ability to have our regular maintenance staff come out and support on some of the holiday weekends. We have events, obviously, as well, that we will be staffing. So we have that flexibility when it comes to the summer months, as well as continuing to be on call for specific demands, emergency situations. We also will be looking at our signage and making sure that our existing signs are still legible and up to date. That's something that we're doing currently. And we'll also be working with our communications office to put out specific signs in strategic areas, reminding people to keep our beaches clean, pack it in and pack it out, as well as the mantra of leave nothing but your footsteps. So again, just as a conclusion, we obviously can expect traffic and other related impacts through the peak season between Memorial Day and Labor Day. We wanted to provide a general update tonight on what staff and the sheriff's office are doing to alleviate some of those issues and impacts and make it easier for folks. And really looking to hear any feedback you may have for us, as well as any questions I can answer. Thank you.
I have several tools that we could implement, ideas, but I want to give the opportunity to other council members.
There are people online.
And we have 3 speakers.
Carlisle Young.
Thank you. I do find that traffic can be bothersome down in Half Moon Bay, especially on a really nice weekend. And there's a couple things, suggestions or questions for you. I hear a lot of people complaining about when traffic is bad. It might be visitors, it might be locals. People run the lights at 92 and Highway 1, and then that intersection gets blocked. And not to mention, just the danger of running a light. And I don't know what your contract is with the sheriff's office, but I'm under the impression that revenue, if the sheriff's office were to write tickets, that the city would get some of the revenue from those fines. So you might want to look into that, because that's, besides being dangerous, it does block intersections. And then the other thing is, when people are coming from the south, like if, let's say they spent time down in Santa Cruz or who knows where, they often come through Main Street to get to the light on 92. Instead of going to 92 and Highway 1, they come down Main Street, and that may be because of traffic apps like Waze. But I was just going to say that it seems like there's going to be more traffic once they open Tunitas Creek Beach. They plan for 60 parking spaces right at the curbside there, and that's going to be sometime later this summer. So you might just want to think about it. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that down the road that might be more traffic that you haven't anticipated. And the last thing is that I know everybody soundly rejected those permanent vehicle messaging signs or electronic messaging signs, but maybe if they had one way up at the top of the hill, like near 92 and 280, they could let people know how long it's going to take them to get down to Half Moon Bay, or, you know, if there's any kind of accident on the road or something like that. And those variable message signs outside of town, I don't know if you have any pull with Caltrans, but those would inform people and maybe tell them to go a different direction as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Hernandez.
Hey everybody, Rick Hernandez. I'm a planning commissioner speaking on my own behalf. I just want to say thank you for all the great work that has happened over the beaches and all the preparation that has gone in. They are so much cleaner, the work that the city does, along with Abundant Grace. It's amazing. It's much more beautiful and easier for people to enjoy the beaches due to all that hard work. I also want to thank city staff and the city for their help in funding the beach volleyball courts. I was part of the crew that helped put those up a couple weeks ago, and the public loved them. They are fun. They are being used. Thank you for making our beaches more usable. Poplar Beach, the steps desperately need maintenance. They are washing away, so there are gaps where it's easy to trip and fall. And I don't know exactly how you do that, but I didn't see that or hear that on what we were talking about tonight. So I just want to make sure everybody's paying attention to that, because they just need a little love so that everybody can access the beach safely. And for those of you who haven't been to Francis State Beach recently, we should probably work with state parks to address access there as well. It is really difficult to get down to the beach. The path is eroded. There's no safe walking space for those of us who may not be as able-bodied as we once were. So it's just a couple of things there for folks hopefully to pay attention to. I do like the variable message signs. I would love it if we could get somebody who had a little bit of a sense of humor, because it conveys to everybody that Half Moon Bay is the no fun zone. That's what you see is the first thing as you come into town. The signs are also pretty ugly. It'd be great if we could come up with a way to decorate them, maybe put some flowers around them, something that conveys a little bit of Half Moon Bay's beauty versus the way that they are currently just dragged out there by a trailer with a bunch of ugly equipment next to them. I certainly appreciate the value of having them near the beach, but on my street. But again, it'd be great if we could come up with a way to make them look less ugly. Again, thank you all for your work. I know a lot of work goes into prepping the beaches. It's an important thing, and we certainly appreciate all the work everybody here has done.
Thank you. Joannis?
Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me. This is Hazel Joannis. I am a planning commissioner, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. I just want to confirm, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I was recently at an event in an environmental event, and I happened to mention that I was from Half Moon Bay, and they were people that were at this event that were from Aromas and from the areas around that area, Hollister, that whole area, and they were really upset that the city was preventing bonfires on the beach. So I was so encouraged to hear our young commenter talking about putting fire rings on the beach. So I'm hoping that the city can take this into consideration. The folks on the other side of the hill, do believe, and it is true, that these beaches are for the entire state of California and the country. And I'm hoping that we can do something to accommodate them as well so that they can enjoy the beach. And the one thing that these people said to me is that they come to the beach to enjoy the beach and then they do beach cleanup. So that is a positive part of this whole, environmental program that they're trying to put into place. The other thing I heard is that, that they also like coming to Half Moon Bay, shopping at our main street, and they do also use shoreline parking I guess it's not shoreline parking. I guess it's that public parking space that they have. That we have at the Ted Adcock Center to come and visit our beaches, go to see our Main Street shops, go to the restaurants, but most of all, and I really didn't know this, that they actually park at that Shoreline Plaza and at the Ted Adcock Center and actually walk and enjoy the walk down to the beach. So I'm hoping that the city can think about ways to encourage people, on where to park and to, safely have the bonfires, and then we welcome the cleanup. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
We have one more speaker, Bob Rogers.
Hello, City Council members. Thank you for listening to me. I'm Bob Rogers. I'm the Executive Director of Coastside Land Trust. And I wanted to thank you for your service and also for the attention to our beaches. Coastside Land Trust, as many of you know, does participate actively in beach cleanups. We've already signed up for the county beach cleanup in September. And we do regular habitat restoration projects out on our magnificent bluff tops on a regular basis. We've got one coming up on June 8th, as a matter of fact, a Wavecrest Workday. And this happens at least twice a year for us. But in particular for the Redondo Beach Road, I wanted to address that. I wanted to add a little bit to that. There is a private resident out there, Steve Drivenson, as you know, who did come into our office, and he was concerned about the gate closure situation. So he's definitely a stakeholder in that. He was worried about emergency services. He was worried about garbage collection and pickup, so forth. We would love to participate, and we've already actually volunteered to be a participant as a stakeholder. As you know, we're working on a trail project that will be where we'll have bathrooms and we'll have a parking lot there on Redondo Beach Road. So we're definitely a stakeholder with that, with regards to the gate. So we'd just like to volunteer our efforts on behalf of myself and Sarah Polgar, who has been the lead in the trail project. She's going to be heading up to the California Coastal Commission to deal with the appeals on that, which will happen on Thursday. So I just wanted to offer our participation and as a stakeholder in that. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bob. Questions or comments from our council?
Thanks, Maz. It's encouraging to see that we're really trying to be proactive. You want feedback about the Redondo Beach Road gate? Yeah, apply for CDP. Do it. We've had volunteers say that they would open it in the morning. I think the Sheriff's Department would close it at night. I think we really should install that gate. And while we're at it, we really need to fix that road. It is horrible, and I have a feeling that if we don't do it, there's going to be an accident there that the city might be on the hook for. So let's get the gate and let's fix the road. Thanks.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
I wanted to follow up on the issue of the fire pits or fire rings. It sounds like there's been some conversations with staff already. Does the council need to give direction on that as part of this item, or do we need to put it on an agenda, or how's, yeah?
I can share a little bit that our bicycle pedestrian advisory committee youth representative had reached out to me for the Eagle Scout project, and I provided some background as far as what that would entail. We do have a policy that allows fires in certain areas like our barbecues or parks. Obviously, there's nothing on our bluffs or our beaches currently that would allow it to happen. We did a little bit of research to support, and it wouldn't require a coastal development permit to do something like that. I will defer to our city attorney whether direction can be provided at this meeting for that item or if it needs to be agendized.
So I was just learning a little bit more about this item because it's the first time I've heard about it tonight. It sounds like this would be a city project. Is that your understanding, Maz? And if so, then we would need council, I guess we would need direction to prepare the application and process it as a CDP. I guess I would, I think we could give direction as part of this item. It is related, or we could bring it back as for future
Or I was thinking
discussion.
bringing the discussion back to a future council
Yeah, I
meeting.
think what I would be looking for is direction to at least work with the young woman that suggested the idea, try to develop some level of plan to bring back to you for discussion. I think there's a lot of factors here that we have to consider beyond just building the rings and placing them. There's management, there's removal and replacement every year so they don't wash into the ocean, those kinds of things. So I think the level of direction we're looking for is, yeah, this is something we're interested in, and staff, go ahead and do some work on it and bring it back in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a public good here potentially to get, especially like the teen population that comes over here to, take some stewardship, clean up around and, extinguishing fires, regulating it as opposed to just it's happening and then you have to call the sheriff and all that stuff. So I like the idea of regulating it and building in some activities, stewardship activities, around it. So I see a public good. So I'd like to, hear more and bring it back. But that's not the only thing I wanted to talk about tonight. So I like the idea. I'm glad somebody brought up the condition of the stairs at Poplar Beach. And to that, I would just say, yeah, it's probably a good idea, sometime before Labor Day, just to do kind of a safety audit at Poplar Beach or other areas if, we have any kind of a responsibility, just to make sure, the fencing is secure, the stairs are safe, just general upkeep, because we're going to have a large influx of tourists, like for the big holidays. We just want to check out our infrastructure. It's easy to just, let that go by, not pay much attention. But, I don't want staff to spend a lot of money on it, but, just see what's what. And then I was thinking about the traffic, especially return traffic on the weekends, where it's really ugly. Maybe working with the business community on like a coupon or a token program. So going to the beach and giving people coupons maybe for area like restaurants, say between the times of periods of 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, to get a chunk of people like off the road. If you're willing to come downtown at this time, we'll give you 25% off, your meals or something like that. Just like a promotion that would, sort of encourage people to maybe hang around more, spend money. You would give them a little deal, but, try to manage traffic a little bit by giving people something of value, a place to rest, have a meal, and a coupon, that gives them a reason to stick around and hit the road maybe a little later, or hit the road a little earlier. You could do like 2 chunks, 3 to 4 or 3 to 5, and then 6 to 8 or whatever. But just an idea, make a little money, keep people happy, keep them off the roads, something like that. Other than that, I think staff has really, nailed down the issues. And I'm guessing that trash pickup will remain the same, or do we have any stepped-up trash pickup, like on the big holiday weekends, or the weekends where it's super hot and?
Yeah, no, definitely, we increased not just the number of porta potties, but also, especially at Poplar Beach, we increased the amount of garbage bins that are out there, the rollouts. We have increased service from Republic as well as from our Public Works maintenance staff to keep an eye on it and make sure that we remove large amounts once they accumulate so that it's available for others.
Good, okay.
What does it mean the stairs are washing away?
No, that was a good point. I didn't bring it up in the presentation, but from the rains, we have the steps are wood, pressure treated wood in the area of the step itself, but between the next step, it's decomposed granite. And so with the rains that we had, prolonged rains, some of that's washed away. And so we actually have that. I'll work with our maintenance staff. We have to bring out a little bit more material and kind of pack it down, especially for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. That's something that was on our radar. And
Great.
we'll,
So it's not that hard to do to.
it's not,
replace.
no, it's not it's not an emergency situation, but we definitely want to fill in those little areas that have been eroded from stormwater. We definitely want to do that before
Before it gets worse, yeah,
Yeah.
great. Regarding the bonfires, I think it would be great to benchmark with areas that do have those bonfires, what their best practices are. Because we've had weird issues with uncontrolled, fires and people grabbing wood from fences when they ran out of wood. I mean, there's all these weird situations. And then how would we enforce that? So I think if we could just get some best practices from other jurisdictions who've done that and also talk to the sheriffs about their concerns would be great. About the fence, when you said it might create an access issue. Okay, so you were talking about this one resident then, right? That was
the gate at Redondo Beach.
Yeah, the
Road?
gate, sorry.
Correct.
Okay. So, and I don't know how that eventual gate would lock or not. So if there could be, let's say, an electronic lock on the gate, and it's different to have a whole electric gate. That's more expensive than the ones that open and close. I don't know how much it costs. But if it's an easy to move gate, but just with an electronic lock, then that resident, could be provided that and provide access, then give access to the fire department and sheriff as well. But I think we could come up with a solution around that, especially if it's for one resident. I know there's been other kind of, but the gate would take care of a lot of the weird road racing down there and all the road jumping stuff. I don't, there might be kids who will walk on there at night, I don't know, but I think it's the cars that were the big issue. If you get rid of the easy transportation, then you'll probably cut down, I would imagine, 90% of the traffic down there. And we are, I've said it and been quoted, we are the guarantors of fixing the darn road and paving it. And since we have Bob Rogers here, I remember, we were possibly talking about when, the machinery's brought on to do some of the other work. Maybe we can work out a cooperative thing where we have paving at the same time and fixing of the road and make it work for everybody and not have to recontract and all that stuff. So, but yes, we have sworn to take care of that as a council, and we will. So we have that commitment. As for the other parts of Caltrans, what we don't control on Highway 1, Coastal Commission isn't going to make it happen, and it's just going to have to be something to work out. There might be, I think there's traffic calming things we might be able to do during peak hours, and we'll figure that out as well. Okay, great, and thank you for all the other details. Sounds like we'll be more, every year we get more ready, so that's good.
comment?
Could we have on the VMS sign, like a message later in the afternoon, like, why not stay and eat? You know, drinks 50% off, or that maybe not drinks.
I will say the VMS signs require, they're high touch to change them. We don't have like remote control over these things. So it does require it's actually the community services officer from the sheriff's office to go and program these things.
Can we get our
So
own?
we'd have to, no, these are ours. They're the ones that do those for us
We need
because
to
you
find a
manually
way
have to do them.
We need some sort of signage, you know, moving live signage, or we can say, you know, instead of hitting the road, you know, come downtown, you know, pizza, you know, 25% off. Or just, you know, a business deal. People like deals, you know, they'll stay if they have a reason to stay. So we have to, you know, let them know that there are reasons to stay.
Yeah, we need to be creative with the language we use in the signage.
Could I add to your coupon idea, which I really love? And since Chamber of Commerce is here, I love the idea of electronic coupons. It'll be coupon hours on certain weekdays. And, you know, we get a vendor who could build an algorithm for the restaurants and stores. So, you know, you don't want everyone with their 30% discount going to one restaurant, but that there's certain hours and times, and it starts building familiarity with those restaurants. And
A to F this hour.
yeah, right. And it'll be good deals, but people will be able to get those electronically. Everyone's on social media, and we make it clear, oh, come down for the coupon hours on the weekend in Half Moon Bay. And believe me, word of mouth will go around super quick. And see if we might be able to work something out, pilot it. Sound good? All right.
Have some music, you know, during return commute hour on the weekends, like at McDuter Park, and then they'll come down, they'll sit outside and have something to eat.
All right. Well, it looks like we're going to be here till 10:30. So I have a list of items I would like to share, ideas. For signage, the QR code, you know, we're all using it right now, so have them around, you know, the beach. It'll be less, you know, writing on the wall, information on the QR code that can actually direct you to our local restaurants, activities, events around the coast. Anybody that goes to the beach, you know, we all do it. We go somewhere, we get our phone and see what's going on, right? So that's one of the things I think that we should be implementing soon for information. Also, for public safety, I know the Sheriff's Department they have a drone. And I don't know how, you know, I know they brought it out a couple years back, but I think, you know, it'd be good practice to start using it, you know, around the beach during the day, just for public safety. It's something they can have available even with, you know, with lights on it, you know, the blue and red lights, so the people at the beach will know they're the sheriffs. Just an idea. I don't think they're going to be looking at the bikinis, but it's, you know, it's public safety. So, it's whatever the deputy wants to do is up to the deputy. Also, another thing about signage, I know the signs on Railroad Avenue need to be replaced. Some are faded, some are on the ground. So, you know, for the parking, especially getting ready for the summer, for beachgoers. The other thing about the gate, I believe 2019 was the last time the Redondo Beach was closed, right before the pandemic. So if it was closed before, I think we should be able to close it again. Shouldn't be a problem just to continue to do the practice that we had before. Just looking into that, I'm very supportive of the fire rings at the beach. You know, I think something that we can work on, and Chloe should come back and present, you know, more ideas about that and how they're gonna be, how our new generation is gonna be involved with that. And about Main Street, musical Main Street, that's a good idea. You know, in the summer during traffic, you know, there's music, people are gonna wonder what's going on. Just park and check it out. So just having something around Main Street, different spots on Main Street, starting South Main by Kitty Fernandez Park, maybe closer to, I know the one of the business Sacrilege, sometimes they have music, so encourage them, they have the area for the music, maybe Miramontes in Maine, the La Piazza, Dutra Park, San Benito. So just ideas about having music on Main Street that was going to make our visitors, stay instead of it will help them with the traffic. And I think we should start getting ready, for the summer. Already on Thursday, we're expecting 76 degrees on Thursday. It's going to be 79 in Redwood City and San Mateo, so I'm sure. But this week we're going to get some visitors. So let's start getting ready for that. And that's what I have. Thank you for the report. Looking forward to the summer. And you need nothing from us? Just
Nothing formal. Thank you for the feedback.
I think I would ask just quickly, I know we heard from Councilmember Ruddick, encouragement to pursue at least exploring the fire rings, and I think we heard that from Councilmember Brownstone. Do we have concurrence from the council to?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I was thinking about doing at night a future item, but if we can make consensus right now, I mean, I'm for it.
Yeah, I think this direction allows staff to work with the community and put together some ideas and bring them back for a more robust discussion and direction, some costs, those types of things.
Perfect. Thank you.
I apologize. Somebody texted me about fire rings, and I was reading that probably as you were mentioning fire rings. Sorry about that.
Okay, move on to item 3C.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and whoever is joining us from Zoom. And Crystalline back there, Julissa Acosta, Community Services Analyst. I'm joined here by Karen Decker, our Economic and Community Vitality Manager. And I am here to talk to you about our CSFA program, the Community Services Financial Assistance Program. I'd like to provide an update on how the program is going for the current fiscal year and also ask direction on how to move forward for fiscal year 24-25. For this year, all of the organizations that we funded have met, for mid-year report, have met at least 50% of their goals, or most of them have exceeded their goals, and we have no concerns about them meeting their deliverables. Additionally, they have met regularly and have participated actively in the cohort convenings. I believe we're on our 4th meeting right now, and we have narrowed focus around healthcare access on the coast, which you've heard earlier from Lisa's CM update around the age-friendly and healthcare advocacy group efforts. And I'll go into more detail on that as well. But I also wanted to mention that during the cohort convenings, we have learned from similar collaboratives on the South Bay, particularly in East San Jose in the Mayfair neighborhood. And that has been a great experience for this group to learn from what other agencies are doing in a similar environment and what they've been able to accomplish. I quickly want to walk you through the background and history of the project. Of the program, sorry. It started with a $100,000 investment about 6 years ago from council. There was no subcommittee recommendation. I understand the first 2 years, decisions were made right here in this environment. The first year allocation for this project consisted of about 15 grants granted to nonprofits, with services going from animal services, cultural dance, education, dental support, and housing, and food assistance as well. There was no collaboration among the agencies from the first years, and the impact was relatively limited because the grant amounts were very small. Luckily, over time, we learned and improved year after year. Progressively, City Council indicated to staff to increase the amount of the grant allocations to $300,000. And over the last 2 years, included part of that grant allocation, reserve it to technical assistance so we can continue with the cohort model. The impact or the result of that was larger grants. With a more focused approach, over the last 2 years, we've been able to focus on safety net services that range from childcare, healthcare, dental care, housing, access to services, and food security. We have experienced over the last 2 years, again, based on the COSA Recovery Initiative's recommendations of a more integrated approach. And the idea of having more collaboration among the safety net providers and the implementation of the cohort model, that there's an opportunity for organizations to learn from each other and share their successes and share their challenges and try to brainstorm together around different ideas that they're seeing from the community. And we've also seen that there's an increase in collaboration. And the steering away a little bit from competition, at least in the environment where we're, bringing them in, which translates to greater impact in the community. I also want to highlight on the cohort model, which is I think one of the biggest successes we've seen over the last 2 years. Last year, when we first implemented this program and this approach, the group collectively decided to focus on a shared messaging and communications tools. This was very useful over the last few months with a state on the Commission of Mental Health grant that was recently awarded to Coast Pride for mental health youth services on the coast, which will create the Alcove Center HMB, which is very excited. And a lot of what we worked on and developed over last year with the assistance of Lightbox Collaborative around that shared message and shared identity came from that and supported that grant, which was a great success. And over this year, coming from the fourth convening with the group, and again, learning from similar experiences from other nonprofits and collaboratives that are kind of our backdoor neighbors, particularly the Si Se Puede Collective, which is a combination of 5 nonprofits located in the Mayfair neighborhood in East San Jose. The group collectively decided to go and apply for Measure K funding. And again, this is kind of piggybacking on the successes and the advocacy efforts from the Healthcare Advocacy Committee and the Age-Friendly Initiative. And so this was a great partnership with all of the stakeholders at the table and different partners that are already focusing on healthcare access to the coast, which is a great success already for the group. And we're hoping to hear, I understand, sometime in June, we'll hear results on that. There's over 135 applications for the same type of services. And so we'll see, but we're really excited, at least for the success this group presented in terms of joining efforts and going for something together. So at this moment, I'd like to just go over the recommendation. I understand there's concerns on budget and as we move forward, but we are looking for direction from City Council for the fiscal year 24-25 Community Services Financial Assistance Program and the consideration of a 2-year grant cycle. The reason why we're emphasizing on a 2-year grant cycle is because we see that this presents challenge for both the city on our end and the organizations on their end in terms of wrapping up every fiscal year. Right around this time is when everybody's getting ready to wrap up and prepare end of year reports, financial expenditures, and all of that. City has to rally up after meetings in around this time and go through the application process, meet with the subcommittee, and then again, go through the selection process and allocation. We've learned from other collaboratives and other similar models that a multi-year allocation presents a better chance to success, especially when there is a cohort model implemented in the program, which is what allows us to learn from each other and continue the efforts. And particularly speaking of the cohort model, we convene about 3 to 4 times a year, and sometimes they ask for more. Like this year, the group asked for a retreat to deepen the knowledge on collective impact, but also to learn and strategize about next steps in terms of Measure K, whether it goes forward or not. And so that's why we present this idea to the subcommittee, which was recommended to bring up to council as well for discussion. And considering budget, we understand it's uncertain right now, and so this would be contingent on available funding for the second year as well. So at this point, Karen, do you have anything to add? Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm open for discussion or questions.
We have a subcommittee member here, do we not?
You know, I was just trying to remember, with Coastside Pride, who helped them put together their grant application? Was that Alice for the mental health services that Coastside Pride got?
I think he's referencing the Alcove grant that they received.
Right. That was drafted by Jenny Walter of Coast Pride with some assistance from Cabrillo Unified School District.
From
Martha Ladd at Cabrillo Unified School District.
Oh, okay.
But the grant recipient is Coast Pride. They're the backbone organization.
Right. Because they were there, I think it was like a $2 million grant they got from a national organization, right? So the collaboration piece really kind of cascades and pays off, where folks are learning to really supplement whatever we give them. And so, yeah, I don't think we should increase the amount any more than it is. And then figure out, after we do our budget, what the second year could hold up and see what we've got. And yeah, I think the mental health services are key. Alice, I remember last year, you know, Stanford called in and they've been studying Alice's model. And it's now a benchmark model around the country for providing mental health services to both, you know, migrant workers, documented workers. So it's quite an accolade for the work they do. And to have them now in this collaboration model where they're sharing their best practices. So kudos to you for working with our consultant and really insisting on that collaboration model. And the fact that they wanted to meet more is great. You know, where in the past it's been more kind of competitive, and now it's being competitive isn't seen as an advantage. So that's kind of a huge culture shift for people who are providing support services. So thank you for all the work on that.
Of course, I just quickly want to highlight something on that note. We can see the better collaboration and connection, the relationships are getting better and stronger with each of the organizations.
Any more comments, questions? Yeah.
I want to second everything that Robert just said. I think that the level of funding is fine, considering the bang for the buck we get, and I love this cooperation model, and I think a 2-year cycle makes more sense. So I'm very appreciative of what has happened, so thank you.
Yeah, so I really love the cohort model piece. And I think, one of the aims of the cohort model was to do some capacity building among our nonprofits so that they could become more sustainable under their own steam rather than, coming to rely on a steady stream, for the city. So what I'd like to do, frankly, when I was thinking about this over the weekend, I thought I'd rather wait and see what the budget is like, the fiscal year proposed budget, before making a decision on amounts for this year. It seems to me you're saying, stay the course this year, and then year 2, you look at availability. I can probably, go along with that. But what I'd like to see is the 300,000 capped, and I'd actually like a bigger share of that to go to cohort coordination and cohort development. So maybe knock $5,000 off of, each of the grantees and put that specifically into a cohort task, because that to me it's the right role for us, and it's building strength in the community so that even if we, got cut really short in a couple of years, it sounds like Mavericks was doing really gangbusters this year, Coastside Gives, that our role could be diminished and they would not be hurt or hurt as much. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on the program. I mean, I love the cohort stuff. I'm so glad you're doing that. And I think that's the real strength of a program that we can, help administer. So thank you.
I think that was enough said. I think we know what direction we're going. Yes, we are a community, a city that gives. So I think we have a direction.
Thank you, and I'll present a recommendation again. If it's okay with staff, I understand. If it's okay with council, I understand that we are okay to move forward with this year, with fiscal year 24-25, with an option to extend to a second year contingent on available funding.
And I'd like more of that to go to the cohort work
Correct.
Specifically.
And so if it's okay, I think we can approve. My original idea was to also receive direction from council in terms of opening the application periods. Right now, we're coming right around that time to continue open the application period effectively tomorrow.
What if we just stay the course? We can make that
Okay.
decision too,
Yeah.
right? Right? Just
Yeah.
not go out. Yeah.
Continue with the same process that we normally, which is that.
Yeah,
part of
I mean, we have the authority to just say, same grantees, move forward, kind of a thing. That makes sense to me, rather than layering on a process right now when there's so much going on for people. Does that make sense?
I think it's great, and I love the idea of having a certain allocation from, let's say, the 10 grantees, 3,000 to 5,000, and with that extra money, actually use it to fertilize new applicants. In other words, come to a couple of these collaboration meetings if you're thinking about asking for money, and get some coaching on how to put together your business
Kind of like a
plan.
sit-in class with maybe the potential for some coaching.
Right, yeah. So we could, then you're allowing for a real consistency and bringing in new ideas and new potential grantees, right?
I think bringing in new ideas
That's-
is really, really important. So
Right.
you might want to have these, like, the annual brainstorm where you invite all kinds of stakeholders in the community to come together and, to learn and to share.
And hire, bring in an amazing grant writer too once in a while to help everyone, figure that piece out. So
Learning is important. The cohort will survive best if everybody's open to new ideas. You don't want people to get so dug into their insular relationships that new ideas, don't get any traction. So breaking that up a little bit with some creativity, I think is a good idea.
Could I just, before we make a motion, make sure we're clear at the staff level? I've heard a few things. Some of them are pretty significant. So one thing I think I just heard, and I just want to make sure that that's what the direction is before you make your motion, is it sounds like to eliminate some of the process, there may be direction to just continue with the existing cohort at the current funding level, although reduce some of those grant awards and divert that money more towards the capacity building and the cohort model, including maybe some, not just for the cohort, but for all of our nonprofits, some capacity building, using that additional funding. Is that what I'm hearing? So we eliminate the application process and all of that work, and I would recommend that we still ask each of, if that's the direction we're going, we have each of the applicants or our current grantees provide some sort of an application or narrative on.
Or end-of-year report.
Well, they're going to do an end-of-year report anyways, but I'm just thinking something to talk about what they plan to do with the funding for the next 2 years.
Sure.
Just so that there's some level of accountability. We'll still do the contracts and the performance measures and all those things.
Right, there's always going to be a planning metric and performance measure, but how they will spend that money might look a little different from year to year, and then they'll be measuring something a little, hey, we're going to try this year, and there'll be a metric and a performance
The
measure.
deliverables might change slightly from year to year.
And my intention was putting more into the cohort was not necessarily to have events for other nonprofits, but even just to further develop the skills of the cohort. You know, bringing in, you know, instructors or speakers, you know, maybe you learn, there's a one-day workshop and you can learn some new skills in financial management or something. So not necessarily, maybe we're not ready to go out to the bigger community yet, but we want a real top-notch cohort that's, you know, functions well, you know, access to resources, you know, develops their staff. You know, staff training is hard to get. So, you know, I think that's a good role for us as sort of the coordinator, right?
Add safety to the strength of the cohort, to strengthen them, because we don't know what financial times are going to be like based on a number of things happening over the next year. So it kind of gives them like a safety of feeling like they're strong. So during bad years when budgets are just whatever, yeah. So why not focus on the cohort for a few more evolutions of this and keep that going? Great.
Yeah, so they're maybe getting slightly less in dollars, you know, unrestricted dollars, but they're also getting value out of it and training or, you know, access to other resources, that sort of thing. So.
I just want to confirm with Karen and Jaleesa, I mean, there needs to be a motion and direction, but just in general, do we get a sense of what we're looking for here?
Yes, I do want to say that for the last 2 years, the council has approved $30,000 in technical assistance, and that, from my estimation, that amount has been helpful and has been adequate. We could increase it at the cost of some of the providers' contract amounts, but I have to be honest in saying that the cohort model takes a lot of staff time because these providers are very busy and they convene 4 times a year, and we're expecting a lot of bang for our buck in 4 meetings a year. We're expecting them to overcome being competitors, be collaborators, come together around shared values, trust one another, decide on an agenda for that given year. Right now it's healthcare access and it's complex, and there's a lot of momentum right now. There's a lot of moving parts, and they have so much energy around this very ambitious goal that they are asking us for more meetings, like a retreat. We're gonna have one on May 14th. They have never asked for more meetings, right? So we are doing something right, and we are really on to something. Every time we have these convenings, we have to conceptualize where they're at, incrementally what is feasible, but what's also ambitious, create agendas, bring in technical expertise when necessary, and a lot of this critical thinking and thought partnership and regional relationships, bringing in Lightbox Collaborative, has been through Wood Consulting, has been through our consultant, Erica Wood. So in addition to that $30,000 in technical assistance, the Wood Consulting contract, in part, has substantially contributed to the success of the cohort model, especially because that consultant in particular comes from a philanthropic background and it can be from starting a victims fund after a catastrophic event to needing, access to capital, to branding. Just the connections there yield dividends. So when we're looking at the total cost, I just want to be upfront that we do lean heavily on Wood Consulting. And I attribute so much of Julisa's staff time and a lot of Erica's time and Irma to the current success. And talking to the cohort about this Measure K opportunity, their role in all of this would be the messengers of the people who are the boots on the ground reaching the hard to reach. So the county can pursue data and as they should, but when we're talking about what's really going on the coast, this is a really captive audience and they are up for the challenge. Anything else you want to share about that?
So what I'm hearing, Karen, is you're not convinced that additional funding towards the cohort model is necessary, but being thoughtful of the fact that there's a lot of staff time that goes into this and the support from our consultant.
Exactly, yes. But the Lightbox Collaborative, Si Se Puede, this retreat, this all falls within the allocated technical assistance. And Julissa is a very watchful steward of these funds. And so she drives a hard bargain when talking to potential consultants that are going to be in service of the cohort.
Have you ever made a presentation before the Board of Supervisors about this whole program?
No.
Okay, well, we'll go offline and let's talk about that because I'm thinking, there could be a little extra help there too, because it's rare that they've seen something like this. So
yes,
yeah, maybe we'll talk about that.
And my point in saying that the nonprofits are the boots on the ground and they bought into this Measure K momentum and age-friendly initiative, Erica largely drafted the Measure K application with some help from myself, over the holidays. And if this is successful, it's a huge win and it will help streamline and expedite piloting lab services on the coast. So again, these opportunities, we weren't thinking about Measure K in July or when we were first convening the cohort. This was an opportunity that presented itself and it was too good to pass up. And the group saw the potential in that and agreed to raise their hands. Now, if we get this right, hopefully one of these 9 nonprofits will step forward and agree to be a backbone organization the way that, what's Victor's org?
Somos.
Somos Mayfair is the backbone organization of Si Se Puede, right? This collaborative in East San Jose band together, and whenever there's an opportunity, for example, they bought Cesar Chavez's house and turned it into a place of education and cultural celebration. One nonprofit couldn't go it alone, but they all have their niche and they all know what that is. We're trying to get this group of safety net nonprofits to think as a collective, regardless of whether they're funded by the city or not. It's so important. Yes, there's no reason why they can't have a delegation of coastside nonprofits in Sacramento or DC pushing digital navigation, affordable housing. There's no reason why nonprofits can't use their 2 minutes strategically and say, you cover return on investment. I'm talking about cultural humility. There's no reason why they can't self-organize, but they've never been incentivized to do so until recently, and this kind of cultural change takes time. So T-shirts, yes, solidarity. Yes. So I'm so grateful for your consideration of the 2-year funding cycle. Really, the burden is on the nonprofits. Every time they get their momentum going and we're going into the 3rd quarter, they have to pause, they have to look at their deliverables, they have to stress out about whether they're gonna remain in the cohort and be funded, and they're reduced to being competitors again. And this council has really refined the iteration of this program by going deeper impact, stressing collaboration over competition, and I just want you to know it's working. I see it in the applications they're considering. We see it among their interactions with one another. When Coast Pride was vandalized, this group got together and said, we should have like a message alert system. Let's use our branded messaging we got from Lightbox and say, we stand against hate, and we'll all sign it. It's these these are their ideas. We're not feeding these ideas to them. So, but it's taking time, and it takes a lot of staff time.
Yes.
We're nonprofit people.
Yes.
Originally.
Can't deny it.
Well, there's no one here to appreciate it, but the way, no, really, the way,
We are appreciating it. What do you mean no one? We are here.
the way you two work together is just amazing, really, seriously. And you just complement each other with our consultant, and it's great. And just how eloquently you present it all, and, make it sound like, oh yeah, it's not, we're just doing it, but the amount of work is ridiculous. So thank you both so much for your love for this project and just how well it's all been working and piece by piece over the years.
And I think a gateway arch will bring more business.
Yeah, that's right.
Streetscape, June 4th.
I think we're pretty clear. I think we do want a recommendation or, a motion to give us that direction officially.
Set up to provide guidance.
Oh, okay. So we didn't have okay. Well, then I think we're very clear, and we'll report back, and this will be incorporated into the budget. And thank you very much.
Thank you. We're almost out of here. We got another 30 minutes. Sit tight. Just kidding. We're going to move on to item 3D, appointments to a city commission. And that is me. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who applied for to be a Parks and Rec commissioner. We had a lot of great candidates. The youngest, 19 years old. It was. I had a conversation with him. He's new to our community. He visited Half Moon Bay once in a while. His grandparents live in town. He's attending college. I believe San Francisco. Is it San Francisco? San Francisco State, I believe. And he just full of energy. He's all excited. He wanted to be part of it. And I've spoke with a few other people about being part of that commission. One of the things that I was looking for is to be a more diverse group. Part of the commission. And more representation of what Half Moon Bay is. And the involvement, with the community, the understanding of the cultural background of Half Moon Bay, and to be able to engage. And I think everybody qualified to be a commissioner, with so much excitement, in the experience, and being founders of our new organizations, nonprofit organizations, and I've decided to appoint Tito Hernandez. He grew up in Half Moon Bay. He went through our school system. He's a young parent. Actually, his youngest, it's only less than 2 months old. And his interest, being Parks and Rec Commission, is to be a role model for his kids and to be more involved, in our community. And I think Tito will bring a new perspective, to the Parks and Rec Commission. He's an athlete. He plays sport. He did soccer growing up, and he wants to continue. Actually, he's interested in coaching. So his involvement with the Parks and Rec Commission it'd be a really strong, asset to the commission. So Tito Hernandez, he lives in Half Moon Bay, works shortly, and has a young child, so couldn't be here. So he's my appointee.
So then we just need a second and a vote to confirm.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, move on to future discussion of possible agenda items. No. Commissions, committee updates? Nope. City council reports? Nope. Yay. Meeting adjourned.